Hey, welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Emily Thomas.
And this week we're going to be talking about the 2023 Mazda CX-50. And yes, you heard me right. It's not the CX-5, it's the CX-50. And it is a different car, but only slightly. It's different. Emily, you sat through the presentation when folks from Mazda talked about this vehicle, the sort of marketing presentation. How is this car different from the CX-5, which we're told they're going to keep making both of them, right?
Yep. According to Mazda, there is room in the market for both a CX-5 and a CX-50. So the way they seem to really differentiate the vehicles is that the CX-50 is going to be your more rugged, outdoorsy, adventure kind of car versus a CX-5, which is for kind of, your maybe everyday commuter or family vehicle. And when you look at the two vehicles, they look the same, except that one's like more squatty, like slower and a little bit wider. And personally, I think that it looks like it wants to be an Outback. When I saw our rented car in the parking lot, I was like, oh, we have a new Outback. And then I was like, no, we do not, because that's not Subaru's logo on it.
There's no M in Subaru.
There's not an M in Subaru, oddly enough.
I had the same thing happen to me with a Corolla Cross. I thought that it was some new Subaru that I had somehow missed. And then I looked and I thought, oh.
So everybody basically wants to have a Subaru, is the way it sounds, or they want to be Subaru. Mazda is doing it informally. They made their own CX-50. Toyota was straight up about it. It's like, we're going to partner with Subaru, give you the BZ4X. Ta-da! So Mazda's here, making their wannabe Outback, and they've named it the CX-50.
Well, it might actually. We've spent a little bit of time in one, and compared to an Outback, it might be a little more than a one. It might be the wannabe. The imposter becomes the master, right? Quince, which one did we rent here? Tell us about this car.
Oh, we got a top of the line 2.5 turbo premium plus, and the turbo engine is really the gem here. It's 227 horsepower hooked up to a 6-speed automatic transmission. This was a very slick interior, very nice job by Mazda making probably a mostly inexpensive car look really fancy. It's 20-inch tires, which really kind of makes the ride kind of jittery, but being kind of a Mazda, they're really honing in on pretty pinpoint handling. And while we've only had limited experience with the rented model, that really is kind of one of the Mazda calling cards.
Yeah, it certainly drove like a Mazda. It felt really good when you were taking it around the track. So it has that going for it for sure.
I want to get back to where you said they made it look really nice, because Emily, you and I talked a little bit about this, about what this car might be on a long road trip. And those seats, they looked great. And then I sat in it and I kind of felt, where's the support there? Did you get that? You got that same kind of sense, right?
Yep. The rented version, like Quincy said, the interior looks really plush. It looks fancy. And so you kind of have this anticipation that the seats are going to be plush and fancy too. And they were not that comfortable. I wish there was more cushion to the cushion. And I was kind of like, okay, I don't know if I would want this as my long road trip car. I think I would just be really uncomfortable at the end, or my back would be sore, my legs would be sore. And then I got into the back seat even just to see how that was. And I am short, average at best, so it's not like I have long legs. But even for me, the length of the rear seat cushion was kind of short. It hit my thighs in like a weird spot that, I was like, for a longer duration trip, this would be pretty uncomfortable, which seems kind of a letdown if you are kind of trying to do this upscale, outdoorsy adventure SUV and it's falling short in that comfort area.
It is easier to get in and out of, though. The fact that it's lower, the fact that it has that, it's a little off the ground, so you're not sitting down in it, but you're also not climbing up to it. So that's a plus.
Right, but that's usually the case with a lot of these sort of SUVs or SUV wannabes, that they do have the elevated height, which makes ingress and egress easier. But really, what I'm hearing, both from you guys and from the people that we work with who drove this, is I'm not sure what you're getting over the CX-5 besides sort of the look. I mean, and even with the way that Mazda made the CX-50 look kind of off-roady, it does not have any serious off-road chops. It doesn't have low-range gearing or aggressive tires or anything like that. And I don't mean to harp on this, but more than one of our colleagues talked about the ride, and a couple of people just said it's just shocking how stiff it is and how the bumps really come pounding through. So Emily, when you're talking about this is not going to be one of your choices made for a long road trip because of the seats, I would emphasize that maybe because of the ride also.
Yeah, I really liked our CX-5, and even just the little bit that I drove the CX-50, sure, it's fun, but I don't know that I would choose it over the CX-5.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're spot on, because the extra weight of the CX-50, it takes away some of the agility that we really liked with the CX-5, and you still have to also deal with the Mazda infotainment system, which definitely got mixed reviews and Consumer Reports ratings.
Yeah, that the knob instead of the touchscreen, right?
Yeah, and even just the first time I got in it, and I'm trying to tune the radio, and you've got the central knob, and you'd think that when you bring up the audio screen on the infotainment system, that it would just default to tuning, but no, in fact, you have to go into a menu and then choose tuning before you can change the radio station. I also tried the voice commands to no avail, because it wasn't coming close to what I was asking for. So I again, we keep coming back to, if you live with this car day in and day out, you probably will get used to it. You set your favorites on the radio stations, and maybe it isn't such a big deal. But to the uninitiated, this is not an intuitive system.
Yeah, and even when you put in your CarPlay or your Android Auto, you still have to then learn a different way of using that knob on there. And I know, you mentioned that some of the buttons are blocked by other controls, and it can be hard to see things. One thing that I actually really like, though, is, and this is kind of a Mazda thing, but remember how cars used to have, the 55 was circled on the speedometer? And that's the highway speed, or they would only go up to 85 or whatever, which is whatever. But this has something I actually think is kind of cool. It uses information. It can tell what the speed limit is based on cameras and map data, and it will project the speed limit. It won't just show it on the nav screen, but it'll show if you were driving over the speed limit. The speedometer turns red. And that's something which happens if you are.
And how much did you experience that, Keith? Tell us.
Only a little bit. Only a little bit. I had to,
This is like true confessions over here.
Emily, I was going to say that Keith has a soft spot in that 55 mile per hour limit, because his old Volvos, that's as fast as they would go.
I was going 45 and a 40, and it just it showed all of a sudden, and it was good, because some of the roads that I drive to go to work, it's 35, it's 50, it's down to 40, and it changes, and it changes for a reason. There are curves, it gets narrower, and for someone unfamiliar with those roads, all of a sudden your speedometer turns red when you glance down. It's kind of a nice, hey, lay off. So I really like that. I think that's kind of cool. But you're right. There's a lot of things that are quirky and Mazda-y about it. In terms of the car that we rented, this was also like top of the line. We also, that one went back to Mazda. We bought our own. We bought a Premium Plus all-wheel drive, which is not the turbo. It's the naturally aspirated 187 horsepower with a 6-speed auto. It's a little better miles per gallon than the CX-5. It's a little more expensive than the CX-5. There's also going to be a hybrid version that's coming out soon. And this time, Emily, you were talking about all the automakers are playing nice with each other. In this case, Mazda's working with Toyota on the hybrid, and
everyone's making friends.
Everyone's making friends. It's such a wonderful world that we're in. Everyone is it's wonderful. No everyone's fighting, everyone's holding. It's wonderful. It's great.
Except when it comes to sales numbers, and then they're not so nice.
And
to each
literally
other
everything else in the world. But but at least the automakers they even built a factory together. They built a factory. Mazda and Toyota built a factory together in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're going to make them, kind of side by side. They're not sharing it. Only the hybrid is the one that shares the drivetrain. But Toyota hybrids we've talked about. They've nailed it. So that might be, we've talked about it with the Tucson, with the Sportage, that the hybrid might be what kind of, I don't know, it might make some things different about this vehicle. Either way.
It's certainly, if you're going to pair with another manufacturer to get hybrid technology, you can't do better than Toyota. I mean, Consumer Reports has literally decades of reliability data on hybrids. Certainly, the Toyota Prius is the poster child of really well made, super reliable hybrids. So kudos to Mazda for finding the best hybrid maker out there.
And for a small manufacturer, they're not big enough to go it alone on that. So you can read our first drive of the rented Premium Plus with the turbo, but also you're going to be able to see our full review of the Premium Plus all-wheel drive without the turbo that we purchased. We've been talking about the rented version, the version we bought. I think that is a great segue into a question that we got sent to us at TalkingCars@iCloud.com. You too can have a question on Talking Cars if you send it along there. We love video questions too. The question was, how are you able to rent all these brand new vehicles from manufacturers? I don't understand how you could rent a vehicle that I'm not sure is even for sale yet. I can't imagine the general public could walk into a dealership and rent a new car. I sense some skepticism there.
I feel like he's throwing us some shade.
Yeah. I will say right off the bat, we do not walk into a dealership and rent a new car. Quince, do you want to kind of describe and go into the world of press fleets and how we can borrow from them while still retaining our ethics?
Well, sure. I mean, if you're a loyal reader of Car Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend, or any of the online, or most of the online enthusiast websites, they're not like Consumer Reports. They're not buying their own test cars, so they are getting vehicles from manufacturers. It's called a press fleet, and it is usually top of the line trim lines that are making their way around each publisher, so their writers can drive them and they can write it and they can take great photos, and sometimes they get treated to really nice trips to exotic locations where they can drive these cars. Being here at Consumer Reports, we don't actually do that. We don't accept the invitations to go to Hawaii first class and stay at a Four Seasons resort. So basically what we do is we've made a deal with the manufacturers that we would love to preview your brand new car that isn't for sale yet, but we will pay to have that kind of service brought to us. We don't want to get freebies from any manufacturer. We don't accept advertising. It's the reason that Consumer Reports is different. So yes, the press fleet is out there, but it is for journalists. And you're right, you can't just walk into dealers like, I just want to rent a car, but maybe you can get a test drive.
And Mary in the business office has this whole sheet of what the car is worth and how many weeks we had it, and we've long ago did this calculation. And there are these companies all over the country that will place cars with journalists, and there are different press fleets for different areas. Sometimes they fly you to the car, and to be honest, it isn't just a vacation. It sometimes gives an opportunity for a lot of people to get in one place, spend a lot of time, and see the car in its element. Back in the day, I have been brought to places as illustrious as New Jersey.
Don't hate on Jersey.
Oh,
hey, half my family's from Jersey. That's all right.
It's not the problem. I had to drive there myself. It wasn't, they didn't fly, there was no, it was just, okay.
You needed a flight from Boston to Newark?
Exactly. I got to get my platinum with Mileage Plus somehow. But so there is a reason for it, but it keeps things sort of very, not even an appearance of us Because if you say something real bad about a car that someone's lent you, there's a little bit of a fear that you're not going to get a car from that person again.
Yeah, it allows us to maintain our scientific integrity and objectivity because we aren't being handed, free samples, basically, right? It allows us to say what we want to say what we need to say, and to make it also clear, there's no testing that's done on the rented vehicles. So any test results that you see posted on consumerreports.org is all based off of our test vehicle that we've fully purchased, not a rented car. Occasionally, we will rent different trim lines to experience new features, perhaps. Usually if we're going to buy a test car, it's because it's a brand new model or there's been a significant redesign, so it warrants a new testing program. But if there might be like a one-off feature or just one feature that we want to explore that's new, and so we'll rent to just kind of evaluate that, and we'll kind of give our impressions about those types of things. I know, I wanted to try out the rear seat reminder system on a Subaru when it first came out, but we weren't going to be evaluating a new Ascent so soon, and so we rented a Subaru Ascent for me to try out the system, see how it functioned, and kind of just gain some technical knowledge and experience in that regard. But we don't publish any test results based off of that.
Yeah.
And since cars are, they're coming out with like rolling changes and rolling updates, they don't redesign every model every year. And so, say for the 2023 model year, there can be, one car that has this new technology. Now, as Emily said, it's not necessarily worth us to buy a brand new car to look it over, but we can experience it. And quite often, some of the high tech features that you see in cars debut in really high end models or high end trim lines. In this case, with the Mazda CX-50 that we rented, and so we want to see if this technology is worth buying. And renting these cars allows us to do this. And it also, as I mentioned before, it's like, we get an early model from a manufacturer. We can write about it, kind of give a first impressions, which allows us to sort of keep pace with all the other publishers out there. And so in that sense, I'm really glad that we do rent the cars from manufacturers, because then we can get our first impressions out to our readers, our viewers, and fans of Talking Cars.
Something that's really interesting is that sometimes you can drive drive one of the souped up versions, like the totally top of the line CX-50 that we were talking about, and then you might get into a base version and it's totally different. I used to have that happen back when I worked for other publications, where I would get press fleet cars and I would drive the car and say, "This is amazing! This is incredible! Can you believe that this car has all these features?" And then I'd be on a trip and I'd rent the same car at the airport and I'd get the base model and get into it and say, "This is not the same car." There is nothing, and it's rare that an automaker will send you a ringer. Although years ago there was something about a Volkswagen that we got that didn't have as much soundproofing in the trunk. Quince, you probably remember that. I think that was before my time here. But
well, I mean, there's tons of stories about other automotive publishers that would get cars that were really specially made, and we have a number of people that work here at Consumer Reports Auto Test that used to work for the manufacturers, and so they know that the press fleet is very specially made. They're all carefully crafted. Sometimes a press fleet car will not have a sunroof because it'll make the car lighter, which either make it faster or it'll improve the fuel economy. It also might decrease the amount of wind noise in the car. There's certain tires that might come on a press fleet car that you're not necessarily going to see on a regular mainstream retail car, to improve performance, to improve the ride. So it's in everyone's best interest that Consumer Reports keeps buying the cars anonymously from regular retailers, so we get the same cars that that everyone else buys.
It's not like they're pulling
Yeah,
them
and
off the line and making hand building a special car, because that would probably actually be worse. But you are getting these option packages that you're like, that's an interesting choice. And when it shows up, it's been cleaned. It's in a beautiful color for photography. It's really meant to give. It's like staging a house. It's just meant to give you that. Put its best foot forward.
And the reason that these trim lines matter so much too is what we're renting is often, like the guys have been saying, it's often the top trim line, which a lot of people don't buy. But when we go to purchase our test vehicle, Gabe Shenhar, he's the associate director of auto testing, he works with the manufacturers to determine what's going to be the trim and the packages that go with it that has the predicted highest volume for the US market. And that's typically the one that we purchase. So again, what we're actually testing is not this one-off elite trim line that most of you will never experience. It's going to be the one that if you were going to go buy the car, it's likely the trim that you would be purchasing yourself. So you know that what we're testing is the same thing that you're getting. So that's an important differentiation as well for our testing.
Yeah. And this is a whole topic for Talking Cars, but trim lines matter. Trim lines can make a big difference as to your satisfaction with your car.
Well, I hope that answers the question and also sheds some light into the world of car reviewing and how Consumer Reports is different, and what else is out there. So thanks for that question. I hope we answered it for you. And I think that's about all the time we have. If you want to read about our rented versions, you'll see them in the first drives. If you want to read about the purchase versions, you'll see the final scores for all the cars we talked about today over at cr.org. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk cars again soon.